You've made it 50% of the way there, guys. 12 hours down. Well done. I hope you're going as strong as I am right now, and we're not too far into the caffeine, and we're pacing ourselves lovely. Now, session 13. We're moving to session 13, and we're talking now about project management. Now, over time, we've always looked at the way in which we deliver projects, and we see it as the same way in which we do things. We've always done it this way. Why change? Today, David's second presentation, I'm hoping that he can demonstrate to you in this short session the benefits of Agile project management and how you, within your practice, can adopt something like this to use on your projects to achieve greater efficiencies and greater outcomes on your projects. So now, I'll hand you over to David to talk to you about Agile project management in an openBIM delivery framework. Thanks very much, David. Take it away.
Hello everybody, and Nathan, thanks for your kind introduction and also the chance to participate in such a stunning event. So let's start with this session. This session is called Agile Project Management in an openBIM delivery framework, and these are the 3 key learning objectives. The first one is to show you the benefits of Agile management applied to the building design stage using the BIM methodology. The second learning objective is just to highlight one particular side of this methodology called BIM, which is the openBIM approach. And the third learning objectives is going more into the detail, showing our basic workflows applied within our company, regarding simplified Agile, using tools such as Microsoft Azure DevOps, Microsoft Teams, BIMcollab, BIMcollab ZOOM, and our beloved Graphisoft Archicad. So, for those who still don't know about what is the openBIM workflow, this is a short and easy diagram in which you can see in a common BIM practice, we are producing different digital prototypes in a native environment. We could call them native models, and in our case we are producing them using the tool Graphisoft Archicad, the BIM authoring one, and then we can produce different types of outcomes, right? Traditionally, we are producing different types of documentation, such as layouts, 2D drawings, schedules, spreadsheets, whatever. And if we are lucky enough, maybe we'll exchange that information using a common data environment. But in most of cases, due to the current industry maturity, maybe we just have a digital repository, right? But from the perspective of the openBIM approach, from that native environment, what we are doing when we are exchanging information models is creating one particular type of information models, which is called IFC. This is an information model based on a open data schema. This acronym means Industry Foundation Classes, and it's used as a reference model when we are exchanging information between different disciplines, which means that when we are creating a model, we are applying different uses from our industry, right? And then we are exchanging our models to other disciplines. Those disciplines will use those models to coordinate with their designs, and then they will be able also to find issues, to track them, and ultimately, as a result of that, they will request a change to the original author. So this is, in summary, the basic openBIM workflow. So From that point, let's talk now how Agile can enable us to improve our BIM-based design activity. We could define Agile as an iterative approach to project management that comes from the 2000s, from different software development companies, to solve several issues regarding client product expectations. Agile methods promote a supportive environment that allows those who use them to respond better to change requests and increase the measurement of success and business value to the needs of our owner or client. So from that point, and assuming that in our industry we have a certain level of uncertainty, but uncertainty regarding two different categories: uncertainty of requirements and technology. So in other words, what you have to do or build and how you will build it, or how you will do it within your project, right? So usually we think that everything is very well defined and the requirements are very clear, but it's not that way most of times, and especially there are also a lot of ongoing new requirements coming from the client in the middle of our process. So we need to adapt our activity to perform our tasks in a way that we are able to respond more flexibly, more reactively to those requests. This is when Agile comes here to improve our workflow. So to go more into the detail, this is the typical, there are hundreds of these diagrams on internet. This is just a random one, a quite easy one, in which you can see in one point there is the client, but there is someone who even it's not exactly the client, but knows about the product that the client wishes, right? It's called a product owner. It's a client connection. This role will define which are the different objectives to produce that product. So we will have different client-oriented objectives on a list. And then what we have to do is, because don't forget that this is a project management method, we need to make a planning. How? Creating what is called time boxes, time boxing. In Agile, and in particular in one of the sub-methods of Agile, which is called the SCRUM, we use the word sprints, which is cycles. So we will have to plan our activity through different cycles, regular ones, and once we have that, we will align it also with our project roadmap, in which we will have different milestones, right? So we will have to align this time boxing with the aesthetic roadmap that we have, and it's defined in our contract, right? Once all of that planning is totally defined, what we will do is unfolding those objectives into tasks. So of course we have a team as well, a production team, and we will have to assign those tasks to each of those team members, departments, depending on which is the size of this approach. And then we will need another role to manage this procedure. Is the guy who is expert on this methodology and is who will guide the team members through the use and application of this methodology. So in the end, we will have short regular work cycles, no more than 4 weeks at maximum, and per each of those cycles we will produce different product increments. But what is interesting here is that in each of those different days that are within those cycles, we will do what is called a daily scrum when we are applying a scrum, but in the end it's a very, very short meeting or communication at the very beginning of the day, and just to align the different team member tasks during the production day. And then at the end of this cycle, one cycle could be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we will have what is called a sprint meetings, a sprint review and a sprint retrospective. We will cover it later on, but this is one, it's about product quality, and the other, it's about performance quality. So at the end of each of these cycles, we will deliver what is called a product increment, but in other words, we will deliver a prototype of our work. Maybe it's not the finished product, but it's finished work for that cycle. This will enable our client to test some of the initial features of our product and so on. So this is in general what is Agile about, as a summary and very fast, but probably you already could see which parts of this approach could connect with our usual BIM activities. So how in DDB we are applying this approach? I will show you our collaboration platforms, this set of platforms, and you will find some of the alignments from these platforms and the different different methods, BIM and Agile. From one point, because we are working within the framework of BIM and probably under the framework of the ISO 19650, what we are dealing with is with information containers, right? In particular, we are using the Microsoft environment, Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft SharePoint as a document management system. We are not using a common data environment itself, but for us it's quite useful. From another point, and from the perspective of openBIM and issue tracking, we are using the BIMcollab cloud platform, managing issues through the use of the VCF standard from Building Smart, and in combination also with some emails that are created from that platform. We can create quite useful automated workflows that we will show you later. We also use Microsoft Teams, not just to chat. We use it as we describe here as a collaborative hub, because in the end it's a hub that connects different other platforms, and from the side of Agile we are using another, in this case it's a tool provided by Microsoft as well. It comes from the software development, but we have adapted its features to our BIM based work. It's called Microsoft Azure DevOps, or in short Azure Boards. It's a Kanban board based platform, but with a lot of special features that are totally aligned to an Agile-based project management. So, and as a connector of all these platforms, we are using triggers, in this case triggers provided by Microsoft Power Automate, to automate some of these workflows, connecting in a more efficient way these different environments. So this is how it looks. This is Microsoft Teams. This is also Microsoft Azure DevOps boards. And as I mentioned, we are using Microsoft Teams as a hub. So which means that from Microsoft Teams, we can make a call to other environments and we can show them here. So we can create different gates to show other environments. In this case, we are showing Microsoft Azure boards here. We have created a control board in which we can see and we can track each of those tasks that are ongoing, the different client-oriented objectives. We can create different work items from here. We can also include some charts, wherever. In a single view, no matter if you are the manager or you are just a modeler, you can address here and you will be able to check and track your current progress. So that's why we call it integrated management. So, but which is the adaptation that we made from the theory of Agile to our team. DDB, it's a small company, it's a consultancy company, so we had to adapt this to a small team. Agile also requires that the teams are not very big, so in some way both sides match. So in one side we have the end client. In our case we have different types of clients, but we have asset owners or other design firms, but we call it end client because in many cases our contract is not signed with them, it's signed with in the end it's our client. In many cases our client is a project management company or a last and scanning company, because we are all doing also scan to BIM projects. So there's a connection between our client and the end client, which is the one that will send us their requirements, okay? So here we are, DDB, and in this case, who is the product owner? Remember the connection between the client and the team. So in the end, in our case, it's myself. I am the CEO of the company, and I am also applying myself the role of a Scrum Master. So I am trying to guide the rest of my team, also trying to apply these methods. So in this case, this is an example of a scan to BIM activity. So we have a scan to BIM team, and we are applying Agile, as I will show you. And in parallel, sometimes we have to collaborate, of course, with other stakeholders. In this case, because it's a scan to BIM activity, they are point cloud experts and managers that they interact even directly with our client and also with us, exchanging different documentation, different information containers regarding point clouding. And of course, at the same time, what we are doing is interacting through those cycles, as you will see, with our client. And now I'll show you our simplified Agile workflow using this chart. As you can see here, in the X-axis we have time, in the Y-axis we have product increment, what we are producing, and we will see how we are performing through those different time boxes, through those different cycles called sprints in Agile and Scrum. So first of all, we have a first sprint, first cycle, and if we use that example of scan to BIM projects, we usually create at the very beginning in our first sprint what we call a prototype. Our end client wants to check just a small part of our whole work, just to check the quality of the outcomes that they expect. So we are creating that prototype during, depending on the size of the project, during 1 week, 2 weeks, several weeks, and we are delivering information models based in IFC, when are required also in native format, in this case PLN, and also the WG, because they are also asking for 2D drawings. Okay, so once this first sprint is done, usually already in contract we have already established that there will be a standstill here, so we will stop producing, waiting for the end client response, the comments and feedback from that prototype that we have delivered weeks ago. This end client, it's not communicating directly with us, it's going through our client, the red one, our client's feedback, and our client, which is also experienced using BIM collaboration format issue tracking platforms, in this case BIMcollab, is providing us the end client's feedback through the use of this Building Smart standard here. So from that point, we can start our second sprint, our second cycle. The first tasks that we apply within this cycle is to fix the issues that our client have found within this prototype, and also coming from the end client requirements, the new ones, or modifications of the initial ones, and this is quite common. They require you some stuff, but in 3 weeks later they change their minds. This is quite usual. So no matter what, you are spending some part of this cycle fixing these issues. Once those issues are fixed, you can start what it was planned for the second sprint. That's why here the product increment slope is a bit lower, because the length of this sprint, it was already defined. So which means that depending on how good you are providing this prototype, or how good you are aligning your product with the client expectations within that in that prototype, you will have more or less effort here to fix those issues, of course. So at the end of this sprint, sprint number 2, we are delivering an IFC as well, or a bunch of them, because we are usually federating also models, because the client requires us MEP, structure, landscaping, and also architecture. And then we can start with the third and further sprints. But look here, what is this bunch of arrows here? This is quite interesting, because this is just an adaptation to the real progress of different sites. In this case, because here we are not creating another standstill, we are not we don't stop our production here. Once our third sprint starts, we have to keep working on from the point that we have finished in our previous sprint, right? But we have delivered something which will produce new feedback in some days. Usually it's more or less 1 week. So which means that once that feedback comes again to our office, it means that we have to stop progressing, and then we have to again start fixing what it was found as an issue or some kind of change coming from the client, whatever. So we will go backwards, also always using DCF within the BIMcollab cloud platform, and then we will fix it. Once it's fixed, we will confirm it through the BIMcollab platform, and we will keep working until the end of this sprint, and so on until the end of the contract. So this is more or less what is usually happening in our daily activity with clients in which we are applying Agile and also an openBIM activity. Let's go now more into details, trying to use some of the Agile terminology, artifacts and events from that method. And I will show you how we are applying it directly in our platforms. Remember that I mentioned that we were using Microsoft Azure DevOps, Azure boards. So this is a platform also to manage issues such as, for example, Jira or other similar ones. In this case, this comes from the Microsoft environment, and we are already working with other Microsoft products, so we have some more efficient connections within our tools. So here what we do is creating in the very beginning a list of our objectives, the product backlog. As you can see here, these objectives are related to different floors, because this is a quite particular example, it's a Scan to BIM project. One of the first objectives is to create this prototype. So this is not a task, this is just an objectives to accomplish with the end client expectation at the end of this first cycle. In this case, matches the prototype with one cycle. In other cases, could be more than one sprint or cycle, right? Okay. Once we have created all this list of objectives, I will show you how they are from inside. So you have to structure them in a more or less granular way. For us, this is quite sufficient or enough. And here we can, as in any other of these platforms, define different features such as the status of these objectives, the area which is related to which iteration is applying this objective, and also you can define, which is called in SCRUM, the definition of ready, which means when the definition of your objective is ready to be launched. Once it's launched, then your team will be able to start working on the different tasks that are related to this objective. So, and here at the same time, because the relationships can be established using this platform, Microsoft Azure DevOps. So you will see always the relationship between the tasks and the objectives. So we call them child tasks. What about those new requirements that I was showing you in our previous chart? So we are using, remember that we were using Microsoft Teams, and we have that window in which we can create a board to see different parts of our activity. So some of these activities could be the requests for change coming from the end client or our client. So then our team is able to see quite easily these types of requests. In this case, it's not coming through the VCF because we want to keep just the request for change quite visible, and you know, if you are already involved in issue tracking BIM-based activities, the number of issues is quite big. So we want here just to keep the maybe 2, 3, or 4 requests for change from the client in terms of initial objectives. Okay. And as you can see here, this is just an example, and you can relate, you can add a link here to some file that is uploaded to our document management system, in this case Microsoft SharePoint, whatever. So it's quite easy and useful to have it everything here through Microsoft Teams. And then this is just to show how we are dealing with this initial activity, the sprint planning, when you have to define in how many cycles your work will be split, your contract will be split. So you can use Microsoft Azure DevOps as well, and you will be able also to see in each of those cycles or sprints how many objectives are related to. So in one single shot you are able to see the whole process. What I want to highlight here, this is totally different to a sequential approach, the typical waterfall one, which is the typical Gantt chart in which we define because we are foreseeing what will happen. In this case, we are not foreseeing what will happen, we are just making a proposal of what our client wants to achieve and how we think that we can progress during those cycles. But we have more flexibility to move the effort from one sprint to another. As you could see in our previous chart, we always need to keep some part of that sprint to fix the issues that our client have found in our previous sprint, right? But the benefit here is the time boxing approach. These short cycles enables us and also the client to reduce the deviation of our product from the client's expectation, which means that once we are progressing in further cycles, the effort is always decreasing, the effort of fixing issues, which at the same time ensure us that at the end of our contract the deviation will be as short as possible. And this is one of the benefits of Agile when we are combining it with BIM. And here, this is the sprint backlog. Remember that the sprint backlog is that point in our workflow in which we can unfold and create those tasks related to each of those client-oriented objectives. So you will be able to see through a Kanban board or through a list, depending on how you are more comfortable to handle this. And you will be able here to check in which sprint you want to check this bunch of tasks, etc. And this is how we are dealing with the daily Scrum. Remember that daily Scrum is that daily connection with your team to communicate the tasks that each of the team members are performing. So we are using directly the Microsoft Teams environment to do this, sometimes doing a short video call, but in most of cases, because we don't have time, in just 5-10 minutes, just texting whatever we are doing, highlighting something, adding some links. I will do this today. Remember that I am performing this MEP modeling activity using these point clouds, blah blah blah. Oh yes, okay, I am doing the same but for architecture in the same area of this floor, so we will be in touch, etc, etc. And this is just 5-10 minutes, not more than that. Exactly. Tasks similar to the objectives. You as a team member, you can include here checklist to your tasks. So it's not a problem at all, and it's very, very granular. This platform can enable you, to achieve a quite granular definition of each of your tasks within this Agile environment. And you can include checklists as a definition of done if you are applying quite a strict in a quite strict way SCRUM, or also defining the activity area, on which sprint is related, these tasks, and also which is the parent product backlog item, which in other words is the client-oriented objective. Okay. And here is another example of how to use Microsoft Teams as a hub. Here, using these automation triggers, what we are doing is connecting the reports coming from the BIMcollab cloud. Usually they are sending you an email, so we are using that email body and we extract information from that email body, and we automatically show it here in each of our channels, project channels, which it's more efficient, because then when we are always here, we see all together in the same environment information coming from different other management environments. And this is just a simple list of this. And this is how we are using the issue tracking platform using DCF. And probably many of you are already working on this. So this is another very, very granular and efficient way to manage your issues here. The good thing is that you can use IFC files as a reference for this, but you can also use this platform and connect it to Graphisoft Archicad using the VCF Manager plugin. So you can apply this no matter if you are still on a work in progress native environment, or once you are already delivered some of your information models based in IFC. And here, this is another example of some of our clients' requests or feedback regarding point cloud issues. So you are able here to include some screenshots or whatever. So this is very, very, very useful. And these are, remembering our initial Agile process diagram, we've mentioned that at the end of each cycle, each sprint, this approach forces us to focus on the quality of our product, making a meeting which is called a sprint review, and also because it's based on the idea of the continuous improvement, also making a retrospective of how we have performed our work. So it's about the product, but it's about also our team performing and producing the deliveries, right? And how we are doing that? So as easy as possible, using also Microsoft Teams, video calls. Last year, the whole world made the biggest test ever about how to make those calls using video applications, right? So we are doing that, and what we are doing in the end, it's a sprint review and a sprint retrospective. These are not two different meetings, could be, but we usually in the same meeting, the first part it's the sprint review, and at the end, from an internal point of view with my team, we are doing the sprint retrospective. And we usually do it on Mondays, but it depends on how each company behaves. And yes, then you review your work using the Archicad directly because it's a work in progress, or IFCs, depending on which are the types of issues that you want to point out. And at the end of this sprint, you will have also to make the meeting with your client to deliver. So we are using also Microsoft Teams to do this, scheduled meetings, of course, with the end client, and we have a channel here established within the Microsoft Teams as well. And I hope that this session has been interesting for you. And now I will hand you back over to Nathan for the questions and answers time. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that presentation, David. I think a few of us got a little bit lost at the start there, quoting tracks from the Chemical Brothers. It's going to be an interesting night. Normally on a Friday night, I normally have my music playing, and it's quite ironic actually. The Chemical Brothers released a brand new track today, so David Little reminded me of that, so I actually had to listen to it online. We'll wait and see how it turns out. But one comment David made, I guess, is he was fascinated to see the Agile overlay to the usual pathway that we take as architects. And one of the things that I kind of think is really interesting is your views specifically on, you know, how much time can we save by using these processes, or how much better quality outcomes can we achieve by changing this from a traditional standpoint? Now, you know, yes, there's all of the different steps you talked through in your presentation, but specifically it's very much set up to, you know, hit the gateways at the certain spots. And you know, we jump onto a question from ITC Help Desk, which looks like a Bon Bryan logo to me. It might be Rosie. That's interesting. That's if that's you, Rosie. But the concept of you know, fixed sprint lengths and getting less done in two because you've had to deal with your clients' issues. Do you want to talk a little bit about that whole process and how you might need to address those issues specifically?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of different questions. I think are quite all of them quite related. First of all, one of my comments here is that although the name of this methodology is called Agile, which is about agility, right? It's not about making the whole length of our contract shorter or working with less time. It's about our reaction to clients' feedback. It's about the agility. It's about the making our response faster in a quite let's call it heavy or hectic process, or the relation between our client and the supplier, right?
Yep.
This is the first thing here, because some people could get wrong that, well, Agile is to make our work faster. It's not about that. Of course you can, if you are applying it in a quite particular way, but it's not just about Agile. You also have to solve other stuff, you know? So this is the first thing. Second thing, it's as you probably could see in one of the diagrams, the chart in which we had time in the x-axis and the product increment in the y-axis. The first sprint, the first cycle, it's one of the crucial ones. As you could see there, what we are delivering at the end of this sprint is a prototype. And this is not just because we want to call it a prototype and it's so cool. No, this is also based on risk management as well. It's about understanding at the best way your client requirements. So this means that before starting to work into the first sprint, you have even sometimes several weeks working on those requirements, and then you are producing just a small part, very small, a partial part of your work. And then, if you are lucky, remember those arrows, the yellow and the red one in my presentation, which is the client feedback. It brings the effort that you will have to bring into your work to change what you maybe got wrong. So this is about risk management. So I think that, I don't know if it was Rob or someone from Ron Bryan, but it's a quite interesting comment, because if we are modifying the effort within the second sprint, of course, it seems that we will modify the total work within our contract. And we are not doing that, because we cannot change the contract. It's a contract. So how we are dealing with that, what we are doing is, and this is when Agile here brings its best features here. The flexibility of moving pieces of work, tasks from one sprint to another, if your client knows that you are working with Agile, and your client knows because it's attached to the contract, right? So what we are doing here is modifying our resources from one sprint to another in order to keep the final product increment within the time framework that it's required in our contract. And this is how we deal. And honestly, we have done dozens of projects applying this, and with the clients, not all of them, because you are very lucky if you find a client that understands all this. But this methodology is totally oriented to client expectations, totally oriented. So it's not about going faster. You can. In the end, the answer to your question, Nathan, it's we are spending more or less the same time, but the maximum benefit here is that we have most of times our client very happy. And in our industry, honestly, this is not quite usual. So that's why we want also to share our experience with others, because it's honestly a good thing to start working on this method. Yeah.
And Sam's just made a comment there about the diagram he put up there about obviously about the sprints and that being excellent diagram. The system he used in a big room meeting with his clients and stakeholders in the past, and was being able to run those things in parallel. Great presentations from a few people. Yes, the ICT help desk is Rosie. That'll be her new name when she presents a little later. And Brent Matthew, interesting to see Sprint implemented outside of Trello and the use of Microsoft applications in collaboration and management as well. So great presentation. regularizing the feedback loop. Yes, that's important. Getting constant feedback or from a client so that you can kind of verify and close gates so that things get closed out. So, mate, thank you very much for contributing to 2 sessions today and helping make Archi Intensive the event that it is for everyone that's attending. You know, we're almost the way through. Hopefully the Chemical Brother puns don't get any worse, or I go and change a t-shirt or two and we start having some fun on the back end of the event with all of my music pun t-shirts. So thank you very much, mate, and look forward to catching up again once international travel opens up.
For sure. Thank you, all of you, and have a good rest of conference. You are doing a very, very interesting and great job, mate.
Thanks a lot, mate.
See you.
And we'll be back in about 9 minutes' time with the next